Well, hello. How's everyone doing? Just give me 1 second and we'll start just in a couple of minutes. Just setting up some things over here and yeah, just gotta take care of a few things before we start. In the meantime, welcome. How's your day been? Hope you're having a fantastic day. Okay, I think we're ready. Bloop. Hey, how you doing, guys? So nice to see you again. So yep, we are going to work on the text-to-speech project. The plan today, we are going to do a bit of a rework. And I don't know if you remember, last time I hit a wall, specifically with the paddle API. The problem, and let me show you what the problem is. But before we do that, let me just take care of the promotion part. I am reworking the text-to-speech project. And some people may not like this part, but we're going to start from scratch. Not technically, but yeah, we're going to basically move on to, we're going to start a new project, and we are going to take what we have learned and what we have done in the current project and use that in this new project. And I'll explain why I decided to do this in just a second. Okay, so let's recap. I should turn off notifications on my phone first. Hold on. So what was the problem? Last week, we were pretty much getting to the part where we needed to show the paddle overlay for checkout. And this is what happened. Let me open a new window here. Actually, let me open it in Google Chrome. Oh, here. I have it here. So we had a bunch of stuff ready. This first part, the add part, We have dependent fields, dependent selects. We have a kind of a booking system in place, and that's all fine and dandy. We actually had the text-to-speech API working, but we temporarily disable it for testing. And Imaji Pictures, hello, good morning. Good morning to you. Hi, how you doing? So nice to see you. Thank you for joining me. So yeah, we got to this part. In this part, I was expecting that if I click this button, something would happen, even an error. But I click, and clicked again, and nothing happened. I did a test with the same code, but on a static route with a static blade template, and that one did work. So what I figured out, and I might be wrong, but I think that this is the problem. The way that the Paddle.js API, the way that the Paddle API works is that we have to add a blade directive to the layout file. Let me show you. We have to add a blade directive that is included with the Paddle package. When we install it, we get access to this blade directive. And what that blade directive is going to do is going to include a CDN link to the Paddle.js API, basically, and then run a couple more lines to initialize Paddle. Then we are using, let me see if I can find it in the checkout button, maybe. No, it was, where did I put it? Oh, it was checkout button. Oh, okay. So don't mind this Livewire component. I was trying to figure out if I could solve this. In the process, I created a new Livewire component with just this paddle button. And this paddle button component, blade component, is also provided to you when you install the Laravel paddle package for Cashier. Now, when this blade component renders, is going to add a class name to the button and also add a data items property, which contains the price ID and how many items. And in fact, I can show you how that code looks. See if I can show you real quick. So at the end of the day, it's not a button actually, it's an A tag. In the component itself is just rendering an A tag with a class of paddle underscore button, and then a data items, and you see the price ID and the quantity. That data, price ID and quantity, comes from the checkout session object that you have to create and pass down into the X paddle blade component. Lost it. This. So that variable that you create using user checkout and then pass the price ID and the items, it is then used inside that blade component to assemble this A tag. Now, Paddle.js, when you load the script into your page, Paddle.js, it's going to look for an element with this paddle underscore button class, and then use that to then retrieve the data items array, and use that to then load the paddle overlay, which is loaded within your web page. It's like a dialog. The problem is that the way that we are working with this is the button will not be rendered until after. So the paddle.js is loaded into the page, but the button is not there yet. So paddle.js cannot find an element with this class at the moment the page is rendered. The component with the paddle button is rendered later in, I think, in the review part, or I don't remember if it was on step 1. When we move from step 1 to step 2, that's when the paddle button is rendered. That's basically just maybe I'm doing it wrong, and actually I think I'm doing it wrong, but that's the approach that I was taking because I'm using the wizard layout from Filament Forms. And I thought that was going to work, but obviously it didn't. So, since we are starting, and given that we have most of the difficult things already coded, although in different contexts, I decided that we need to take a step back, reanalyze the requirements of the project, and try something different. And in this case, we are going to start a new project because I don't want to tinker and just back up, or sorry, I don't want to roll back a bunch of stuff that I have already done in this project, like installing Filament Forms and all the Tailwind.js configuration, etc., etc. I don't want to just paddle back on that because that's going to take too much time. What I really need to do is just create a new project and implement all of the things that I've learned from here, from this current project, into that new project, knowing that the first thing that I need to know that works is a paddle button in a single form, and I can see the paddle.js overlay. Not only that, I need to know that I can dynamically modify the items, the quantity of the price, so that I can increment or decrement that based on, it's going to be based on how many checkboxes you select, but that's going to be pretty much Livewire, setting a number in a component, increasing that or decreasing that. So I need to be able to render this paddle button component, but dynamically change that quantity. And I think the easiest way to do that is just start fresh. We don't have much. I mean, we have done a lot in the filament side, but sometimes it happens that you need to reanalyze and make sure that the tool that you're using is not causing you more problems, that it's solving them. And in this case, I think filament is very good in many ways, but in this specific scenario, it's just not cutting it for the requirements that I need. So it's not filament itself. Filament is not the one in fault here. It is me, because I didn't thought about the requirements thoroughly. So if at first you don't succeed, then try and try again. So we're going to try again, and we're going to follow a different approach. So if you bear with me, that's what we are going to do today. At minimum, we want to have the paddle checkout button in a form. We want to see the paddle overlay. We want to dynamically modify the items, the quantity that we are passing into the button. And maybe we can play around with the bare bones implementation of how the text-to-speech is going to work. I'm not too worried about the booking of the ad. It's those other two things that might be a roadblock. So we're going to start with those. clear this. Let's head into herd. You probably are not seeing my screen, are you? Are you not seeing my screen? Dang it. Why are you like this? Hold on. I need to reload this. If I turn it off, maybe? Turn it back on? No? Dude, come on. I forget how to reload a source. Maybe in the properties. Sorry about this. I'll restart capture. Sometimes I don't know why, but OBS sometimes freezes the screen share. I've been explaining a lot of things, and you couldn't see it. You couldn't see anything, and I apologize. I don't think it was a requirement to see it, but basically, yeah, just dandy, awesome, perfect. Thank you, OBS. You're great. Why don't we start over? All right. So problem, we have this checkout button here. We can click on it. The reason, there is this A tag here, and paddle.js needs to read the paddle underscore button class on an element in the page, and then collect the data items property to then load the paddle.js overlay. The problem here is that because this button is rendered until after the paddle.js has loaded, then paddle.js cannot find the element with the required class, and therefore cannot use it for the paddle process. So you click on it, nothing happens. That's pretty much the summary of all the things that I just did. And in the future, please watch OBS when you're doing this. All right. As I was saying, let's create a new project. I'm inside herd, and I'm going to create a new project, and I don't know, let's call it Laravel new TT ads -2. I don't know. New. We are going to use a Laravel Breeze starter kit and Livewire with class API. Dark mode support, yes please. Test. Would like to initial, not yet. Well, I should, just in case. Yeah. All right. We have a new project. Let's cd into ttants to actually new. And we should have ttants dash new dot test. Should be good to go. I'm going to register for now. Nerison Pitogo, what is the live stream all about? This live stream all about? Well, it's kind of a continuation of what we've been doing, the project that we have been working on. Generally speaking, it's just me trying out a new project with Laravel and Livewire, sometimes Filament. The terminal just looks so bad without, oh, I'm so sorry. I probably just, it's a pixelated mess. You're totally right. So yeah, it's just the generally speaking, Livewire with Laravel. Concisely speaking, I'm working on a project for teaching purposes where I'm using text-to-speech from OpenAI to generate radio ads that the user can book on specific dates and times. And at the end, they can pay using Parallel.js. Never. Zoom in a little bit. There you go. Oh, you saw the short about running Laravel new. All right. Yeah, the one about if you're having a bad day, just run that thing. Yeah, it's very, very, I don't know, what is it? It's like watching a nice, how do you call it? Nah, I don't know. It's just nice. Okay, so we're going to work on this. So I'm going to use this as a playground, the dashboard. And then when we have things working, we can move things around and create different components for pages, etc. So for now, let's just do it here. Okay, so let's make that card in the middle just a little smaller because I'm going to put a form in there. Too much. You know what? I should create a Livewire component. Yeah, I'm going to create a full page Livewire component just for this form. Let's call it pages. Create ad. Yeah, pages create or yeah. Create ad is fine. So I have a new Livewire component. First thing I want to do is open that new Livewire component and make sure that it's using the global layout file. We can use a property on the class called layout. Just pass the name of the view, layout view, which is in resources, views, layouts, app.blade.php. Is it possible to use Vault without using full page component, or Vault can only work if called within another blade? Actually, yes, you can use Vault components as full page components. Do you not know how to do that? I can show you real quick. In fact, when you use the Blade Starter Kit, there is already a Vault component for you, I think. Let me check. I think it's in the web routes. No, it's not. So the way that you do that, how do you create a Vault component? Let me remember. You have to do Vault install first. Yeah, I don't want to do it here, but I can show you real quick. Thought it was in the packages. No, it's gotta be in Livewire then. Here it is. So you can go into the Livewire documentation and just search for Vault. And that is at the very end, right here inside packages. You just need to install it first using this. You probably already know this. Just composer required, install it, and etc. etc. You can make a component like this. And then to render a full page component, you just have to use Vault route in your web.php file, in your routes file. You provide a URL like any other route, and then the name of the component. Usually these components don't have classes, so this is the name of the file inside resources views, I think. And also you can make use of layouts in your component. So in this case, you can say using the API style, you can just say this component uses this layout, and then you provide the route for the layout that you want to use. If you don't like the API style, like me, you can just use the layout property that that you use in other Vault components, like this. So you just use layout and then the layout file, etc. Yeah, no problem. Always happy to help. All right, so we have a create add component. Let's use it as a full page component. So I'm going to create a new route here. Let's use route. In this case, you can just use get and then provide the URL. In this case, let's call it at create. And then provide the class name, which will be create add class. Let's secure it using the out middleware. And let's give it a name as well. This will be ads.create. Now, let's copy the contents from the dashboard into the new component layout. So like that, let's open dashboard.play.php. And in this case, since the component is already using the layout, I don't need to extend XApp layout. That only is necessary on Blade components. So I can just take everything inside the XApp layout, yank it, and then go back to create-add.play.php, which is the view for our component, and just paste it there. Nice thing about using this kind of full page components is that, generally speaking, a Livewire component requires a single element, like one root element in your template. But since we are using a layout, we can use the X slot right next to the root element so that we have a title in our page. Let's change this to create add. And this is way too big. Let's try, instead of 7, maybe 4 for Excel. Centered with MX Auto on small devices, a padding X of 6, and on large devices, a padding X of 8. Everything else looks fine. Save that, and we can now go here and visit that route. And Livewire pages, component layouts app. Okay, it's not finding my layouts app view. Let's see why. Oh, I have to put it in actually. Layouts, sorry, what's the address? Resources, views, layouts app. So starting from views, this will be in layouts app. And I should start a Vite server. Still a little big, I think. Make it a little smaller. About 3. Okay, I like that. All right, let's start with the most simple scenario. I'm going to use a single form in this case. The wizard thing was nice, but I think we can get away with a single form where you just type all the information and then there's a checkout button at the bottom of form. And when you click that, you see the paddle overlay, and then you pay. The reason I want to do it this way is because there is a booking in between. There's a booking system where you need to select dates. So I want to validate all of the dates right before you're going to pay, because if for some reason I'm thinking about a very unlikely scenario where two people select the same date and time, I need to validate that before I even go into the checkout phase. You're not using Vault, right? Just Livewire, separate Livewire class and separate blade. Yes, I like to use classes. It's just my way of, I'm more comfortable with Livewire classes and templates separate because that's how I've been working with Laravel for like years now, where you have a controller and you have a view. But in this case, I replace the controller with a Livewire class. And that's my brain can wrap around that concept more easily than a single file with the class. Even if I use Vault, I like to have the class name at the top and then the template in the same file. Yeah, I'm even comfortable with that. But the one thing that I'm not comfortable with is the API style in Vault. So yeah, right now I'm not using Vault. I'm just using Livewire with a class and a template. Let's start with, let's change this. Let's add maybe a heading here. Let's say that we want this maybe text Excel. Maybe not so big. Text LG with text gray 800 and dark mode text gray 200. Font bold. Okay. Okay, at this point, since I want to create the paddle button, I need to go and follow the installation process again for cashier with paddle. So let's do that. And because I have a terrible memory, I do not remember it by heart. So that's why we have the docs. Laravel cashier, paddle. Installation, composer require. All right. Then we need to publish the cashier migrations like so. And of course, PHP artisan migrate. I'm not going to do fresh, just migrate. We have all the tables in place. I need to add this to my .env file. Let's go to the end. There you go. Next, we need to configure the user with the billable trait. So let's open the user model. Let's add the billable trait like so. And then I'm gonna need this, all of the API keys I'm gonna copy all of these keys here. Go back to my .env, paste it. I already have all of the keys in my other project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to push this down a bit. Bit more maybe. And I'm going to, let's save that. I'm going to open the other project and just copy the values. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pixelate my screen so that it is not easy to read. So let's open that other project. So that's TT ads, the old one. Go to the .env file. Let's grab all of the keys. Yoink. Paste it here. Save it and then head to the top. And I think we're good. All right, I'm gonna close this file. Now we have all of the API keys from Paddle already in place, plus the sandbox. Next, we need to add the Paddle.js directive. We're going to do this in the layout file because we're using a full page component. That full page component is going to inherit the layout file, and that layout file is going to have this Paddle.js directive in the head tag. So let's open app.play.php, and I'm going to add it just after the Vite directive. Right, that's done. I'm not going to do any currency configuration, not going to override any default models. And let's go straight to the quick start. Oh, one thing that I should go and grab right away is the price ID. Oh, I'll do it in a minute. Actually, I do have it in the other project. I'm going to go and copy that. Second. Oh no, it's not here. I'm going to grab it from Paddle then. Okay, I'm going to have this handy so I can copy this. When you're using single transaction, single sales for things that are worth something and you want to sell different amount of those, you have two IDs basically. You have the product ID, which describes the product, but you also have a price ID inside the product. So for the same product, you can have multiple prices if you want, but when you are doing the checkout, you have to use the price ID instead of the product ID. That was one mistake that I did last time. And actually, I'm going to show you the error because it's not easily identifiable. What's the problem when you use the product ID? So I'm going to show you how to find that error when that happens. All right, so Paddle.js is in place. What else? What's next? Right, this. So at this point, we need to put this button in our Livewire template. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to open the create add template. And let's just paste it here. Actually, let's just do checkout. Now that's going to complain because there is no checkout variable in my template right now. Yep, no checkout. So let's try and solve that. One thing that I try to do, and I'm going to show you why that doesn't work, is if we go to the create add, you might be tempted to just add it as a public property on your Livewire component. So like something like public checkout, right? Because every public property that you add to your Livewire component is immediately available as a variable to your template, right? So you might be thinking that's the perfect place to put it. And you might be right. Hold on, what's going on here? Checkout must be right. Now, this guy over here, this paddle button, is expecting a specific class, right? It's actually expecting a Laravel paddle checkout class. And we are giving it a null instead. So the paddle button is then failing. So you may be thinking, well, I just have to type hint this as Laravel paddle checkout, right? But then again, you need to initialize it because a null value is not going to work. So usually the place where you initialize this kind of properties, it's in the mount method of your Livewire component. So you may think, well, let's add a mount here. And let's use the example from the documentation to initialize that checkout variable. I'm going to take all of this, paste it here. I'm going to modify it slightly because we don't have a request here, but we can use the auth facade Laravel and just grab the user, call checkout. In this case, I want the price ID, but this actually takes an array. When you use an array, you can specify how many items you want for that price ID, how many things you're going to sell of that price ID. So right now is where we use that price ID from paddle. So I'm going to copy this. Actually, wait, I'm going to use the product ID so that you can see the error that happens when you don't use the actual ID. I'm going to use the product ID, which is, that was my way of thinking. It makes sense. I'm selling this product. It only has one price, and it's the default price. So logically, when I sell the product and only has one price, then that's the price that is going to be used. That was my logic, right? So pass the product ID, and then if you use an array key value pair, the value would be how many. So let's say that we want to sell 2 of that product, and then return to the dashboard route when the checkout is done. So now you have this checkout, but it's actually this checkout because this is a public property, right? So when you come back here, you have a different error. And this one took me a while to figure out. It might be obvious to you when you see it, but if it's not, then you're like me. So can you tell me what this error is in the chat? If you know it. If you know it, raise your hand. Do you know why Livewire is telling me this error? It's not very easy to see at first because this doesn't help. Like, what is this type? What is this property? Why is this telling? Why are you not being more expressive in your error? What property you're talking about, etc. Limited types, bingo. Livewire does not accept every single type as a public property. Why? Because Livewire needs to serialize those properties whenever information is going back and forth between the client and the server. So if in this class specifically is not serializable. So you cannot support all of the classes in your project. Livewire has a limited set of classes. Specifically, those classes need to be serializable because Livewire is going to take that class or that variable, serialize it into JSON, send it over to the backend. When it changes or when there is an update in the Livewire component, it's going to send the old value, the current value, and then the backend is going to do whatever it has to do, and then send the payload back to Livewire so that the component can re-render. So how do we solve this? We can't put this in a public property. So the way that we go around this is don't use a public property, since this is going to be needed when the component renders, and use it on the render method. I'm going to delete this from here. I'm going to make it checkout instead. Delete it from the mount. Sorry. Paste it in the render method. In fact, I'm going to delete the mount altogether. And then you can just pass that variable that you just created in your render method and pass it down to the view like you do in any other Blade template. So it's called checkout. And you pass the checkout variable. There you go. Problem kinda solved. Now the problem here is that this has no styling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a component that comes with Breeze, and it's I think it's called primary button.blade.php. It's located in resources, views, components. And I'm going to take all of the classes from there. Yoink. And actually, let's go to the create add.blade.php and let's put it here. All right, looks better. Now it looks like an actual button. I don't like that it's so stick together to the header, but let's not worry about that. So according to the documentation, that should be it, right? We have button that has a checkout paddle session. Sorry, it has a checkout session in this checkout variable. And when you click this button, you should be able to see the paddle overlay. And it kind of do. But this is the error that you get. Something went wrong. We don't know what. Please try again later, as if that would help. And if the issue persists, you can contact our support team using the button below. This doesn't help at all. How do you see the actual error? You just need to go into your dev tools. Let me zoom in real quick. I'm going to close this and check the network. Let's make this a little smaller. Come on. Give me the errors. There you go. So when you click here, you see a bunch of transactions. Look for the transaction checkout, the one that failed with a 400 status. Could be a different status, but the one that failed. Transaction checkout. If you examine that, then you can see what is the actual error. This is an invalid request, and it has to do with items 0 price ID. Now, this is going to tell you that this transaction, it's expecting a price ID, not a product ID. So that'll be your first clue. So instead of using the price ID, and where do you find this value? You can go to your dev tools, just inspect the button, and here you can see price ID. Actually, let me just do in the data items, you can see price ID, but I'm actually using the product ID. So that's the problem. Let's go back. I'm gonna copy the price ID from the products catalog. Copy that. And back to the created component, and then paste it here. And now when you click proceed to checkout, you get the actual paddle overlay, and you get to see what's the total of your purchase based on the price ID and the amount that you provided. You can put in your email address, your country, etc., etc. This text to ads, that's your application name as set in your .env file. So it takes that and pass it over to paddle. Then you can provide your credit card information. In this case, you can use, I believe is 42424242424242. Name on the card, whatever, test. It's paddle free. I actually don't know. Let me just finish this. Actually, let's go through this. Unbelievable. I don't know. I mean, let's go ahead and check. They do, like any other service, they do take a cut from a transaction. But let's see what's the pricing, because I don't remember. Let's go to paddle.com. Pricing. So it's a kind of a pay-as-you-go system where they take 50 cents plus a 5% fee for every checkout transaction. And when you sign up, you get a sandbox environment that you can use to test your integration. And then when you're ready and you provide your company's information, etc., and your tax information, I believe, then they upgrade you to production. Very similar to Cashier. Not Cashier, Stripe. I do not know what's the how many countries this is available in. I think it's better than than Stripe in that way. Price, solutions, developers, resources, support. Yeah, I'm not sure what countries it's supported on. You'll have to look into their documentation or maybe ask their support team. But I've heard that it's more widely available than Stripe. Might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Expiration date, I think it's 01 20. Let's put something in the future, and 100 for security code, and then pay now, and it takes you to the dashboard. Now, when that happens, when all that transaction happens, Paddle is going to try and call a webhook that we haven't configured yet. And that webhook is going to take care of updating your database tables with your customer information. That didn't happen. All Paddle did is just redirect you to the successful page because everything went fine. Problem is that Paddle made a call to ttads-new.test, which is not publicly available, so your database information is not going to get updated. To get around this, you have to publish your application either with ngrok or with what was the other one? The one that comes with Herd. Is it in settings? Expose. So if you're using Herd, you can use Expose. You just need an API key, and you can immediately publish that in a temporary URL that you can then put inside Paddle and validate that so that Paddle can then call your application's webhook to update the database. We're not going to get to that right now. Not really important, but at least you know how that works. And you can follow the documentation about it here, where it says configure Paddle's webhook handling. So you can read through this documentation. It takes you over what is needed to configure all of the webhooks on the client and on the Paddle side. And using ngrok, I think the best one for publishing your product is Expose, even if you're not using Laravel Herd. I think it's the easier one. Now, we have a button, and we can show the Paddle's checkout overlay, and we can put credit card information, and we can actually complete a checkout. But I know that we are going to modify that quantity dynamically based on the service that you're selecting, the radio station, the date, and time. So when you can have multiple times available, and for every time that you check, for every time that you want, that's going to be $12. So for everyone that you check, that'll be plus one quantity. So how do we go around this? The one piece of data that we need to change is this, the quantity, right? That quantity comes from, let's go back to the create. That quantity comes from this value here. So instead of 2, I think this would be at a good place for us to use a public property. So we can use public quantity. It's not going to be the exact implementation, but just a proof of concept of how we can have a moving number or a dynamically updated number for the quantity. It's going to be slightly different on the actual implementation, but at least we can see it working. So we have a public quantity. And what we can do in this case, why don't we head back to the create a template, and let's try using an input. And we can wire that input to the quantity and then change it. See it changing in our paddle button. So how do we do this? I think Breeze has a few components that we can use. Let me check. Resources, views, components. There should be a text input here. Yeah. Let's use that. Isn't there a label too? Input label. Yeah. So let's use X input label. I think it uses value for the text. Wow. Did I lose my keys? Okay. There. And then X text input. We need to do wire model. And let's wire model that to quantity. This looks like crap. How do we fix this? Maybe let's use a form. Let's give it a class of flex call space y6. Kind of better. It's too separate, I think. Let's try 4. A little better. And let's separate this form from the header. Okay, that's a little better. I don't like this full width input, but we can change that later. So now we have this, but it's not reflecting any values. That's because I didn't initialize it, didn't I? There you go. All right. So let's examine the button. Oh, now what we need to do is in here, instead of passing 2, we can just pass this quantity. So that whenever we change its value here, when the component re-renders, it's going to use the actual quantity that we need in the rendered button. And actually, let's make this input a number so that we can use the arrows. Okay. So quantity equals 2. And if we increase it or change it, nothing happens. I should be seeing this number change. Is the component rendering, re-rendering? Switch to fetch XHR. And if I change the value, there is no updates in Livewire, so the component is not re-rendering. Do I have to make it live? Let's try that. Wire model live. That way, whenever we change the value, it's going to force a re-render. So nothing here. There you go. There's an update. So whenever there is an update, that means there was a render. So let's check component here and keep an eye on that quantity right there. There you go. 3, 4, 5, 3, sorry, 4, 3, 2. Now the quantity changes in the button, and if we press proceed to checkout, then we should see, oh, something went wrong. Luckily for us, now we know how to change the error, how to check for the error, don't we? Okay, what's going on with you? What's going on with you? Switch to all, clear the log, and proceed to checkout. Transaction checkout failing. Code validation, the quantity must be of type integer. What am I passing? Is it string? It is a string, huh? So you see the double quotes in the quantity. So it's interpreting the value as a string. I think if we just get back to the component and just type hinted here. Sorry. So this is an integer, so treat it as an integer. And back to, there you go. No more double quotes. And if we change the value, it stays an integer. Perfect. And I proceed to checkout now with 4 items. Yes, sir. Okay. Everything's going according to plan. All right. So we know that this works. So we have paddle working, and I should have started with this in the previous iteration. It would have saved me a lot of time. So we have paddle working. We have the quantity, which is dynamically modified using Livewire. What we should play around now is with text to speech. I really don't want my initial idea for this was that I was going to create a web component that was going to sit below the text area so that whenever you press on that, button or web component, it will change the icon from play to pause, and then it will play the sound. The problem that I encounter though is that I don't know what black magic Flux is using to make the web components adapt or adopt Tailwind CSS classes. Maybe I was doing something wrong, but when I tried to make a web component with a shadow DOM using Tailwind CSS classes, it just would not work. I have looked through the Flux's code, their web components, and how they implement that, and I just haven't found the key piece of information that will allow me to use Tailwind CSS classes inside a web component. So since I don't want to go that rabbit hole again right now, I think we should probably just do plain old JavaScript maybe. Let's create the layout and maybe it'll come to it will come to me. Let's leave that there, and I'm going to add another 2 fields on top. Should have a maybe I should wrap this two in divs. What do you think? I like that better. 2 is better spacing in between label and input. So now I can add another div here. Class space y2. Let's add an x input label. And then a text area. I'm going to need the classes for that text area though. So I'm going to grab them from the text input. Yoink. Paste. Okay, how does that look? Interesting. When I added the div, it reduced the size of the text input. Maybe I can make them a little bigger, maybe. With, I don't know, 32, something like that. How much is that? 128? Maybe that's too much. How much are they right now? $197 pixels, maybe 40 pix. How much is W? Come on, give me the, that's it. 40 something, 40, 44, 48. Let's try 48. That didn't work. That's not working. It's kind of working. To the text area that it doesn't want to grow. If I take it back to with full, max with 40, 42. No, that's too little. 48. Still too little. G. Kinda. SM. Yeah, SM. Okay. Let's do the same. Yoink on this one. Paste. Now, I want to have a button aligned to this side of the field that we can use to click on it and preview whatever is written here. Why is that all the way there? Interesting. And that button, in theory, is going to call OpenAI's API, text-to-speech API, give me a file back, and then I can use that file to play the sound. But let's lay out the button first. I have a let's use a secondary button here. X secondary button. And let's call it preview. Okay. I don't want it full width. This is a flex call. What if we... maybe I can just do class self end. This is flex call, item center. There you go. That works. Okay, let's think about this. In JavaScript, you can use the audio function to create a new audio element. I go back and forth on how to pronounce audio, audio. You can use JavaScript to create a new audio element and then play that, play or pause that using JavaScript. Thing is, I need to somehow trigger that using this button from Livewire. Alpine.js, maybe? No. Because I need this to run a Livewire function. Oh, wait. I think I can dispatch an event. Events, events, events. I think I saw something about events in JavaScript together. Events. Is this zoomed in? Yes. Listening for events. Listening for events from specified child components using JavaScript to interact with events. Listening for events inside component scripts. Okay. So I can use the script directive. You can easily listen for the post created event inside your components template from a script directive like so. So let's try this. Let's use script. Actually, let's read more about using JavaScript inside your Livewire components, first of all. Livewire and Alpine provide plenty of utilities for building dynamic components, blah, blah, blah. Introduction, executing scripts. To execute, actually, let me just scan that. Okay, to execute bespoke JavaScript in your Livewire component, simply wrap a script element with script and end script. This will tell Livewire to handle the execution of this JavaScript. Because scripts inside script are handled by Livewire, they are executed at the perfect time after the page has loaded, but before the Livewire component has rendered. This means you no longer need to wrap your scripts in document add event listener to load them properly. This also means that lazily or conditionally loaded Livewire components are still able to execute JavaScript after the page has initialized. Okay, let's give it a try. We have the template already here, and then a script down here. Head over to, is this the, yeah, this is the create add components. So if what they're telling is true, I can just copy script and then add a script tag here. And then end script, was it? Like that. Okay, let's check that log. Nice. Okay, all right. Okay, so I can run JavaScript in my component. Now all I need is a way. Okay, so now we can go back to events because this is what I want to happen. Whenever I click this preview button, I want to run a method in my component that will take the text from the ad, send it to OpenAI, text to speech, get the results, and then create in JavaScript, create an audio object with that file path, and then play that sound. Sorry. All right. This is what we're not going to use OpenAI just yet. I'm just going to use a placeholder file. Okay. It's going to serve as an example of a real file that I can technically that I will technically be receiving from OpenAI. And I have that file in the other project. Let me just grab it. Before I do that, I know that I'm going to need PHP artisan storage link. So now I have inside storage, I have app, private, public, and public is a mirror copy of public storage. Okay, so I'm going to put that file in here so that I can then use it in JavaScript. Give me a second. I never remember if no, I did close it. Hold on. I think I can just do Shift Command and open ttads. Look for that file, which is in storage app, public. This one, speech. Sounds like this.
This Wednesday, we begin a new project with the Laravel framework.
Apologize if that was too loud. Let's copy this and paste it in here. Okay, so we have a file that we can play with. And that file is also available. Actually, it is only available. Where did I paste it? Oh, here it is. So it's in storage public, but that is mirrored in public storage. Storage app public and then file, and that is mirrored into public storage. Let's figure out first the method that I'm going to run. I have the secondary button here. Let's add a wire click. Let's call a preview method. Get over to create that component, and let's create that method up here maybe. For now, let's just dd preview file. So when I click this, that runs that function. So here I'm going to contact OpenAI TTS API. And then I'm going to get a file back. Let's actually create a file name with I think we can just do public path. No. speech.mp3. Here's what's going to happen. Whenever I write the file, I'm going to use a full path for that file. So in that case, I can use something like storage path or public. I think it's public. Yeah, public path, and then a file name. But that is going to give me a full path from the root of my file system all the way to my file. I cannot use that in JavaScript. JavaScript does not have access to anything outside my application. So in that case, I can just use file name. And then when I request a new audio object, I can just say / if I'm looking at the public folder, / or the root will be public, and then I can say / storage and then the name of the file when I'm creating the audio file in JavaScript. So all I need is a file name. And then I can say, I can dispatch an event from here and then listen for that event in my script tag, in my script tag in the components template. So let's say this dispatch play audio, maybe. And I need to pass the file name as a parameter. How do we listen for events in JavaScript? Go back. Oh, we just need to do this. So wire on, go back to our template, create add.play.php, head over to this place here, change that console log, and do wire on, and instead of pause created, play audio. This is going to receive an event object. I think we can just do for now console log event file name. And let's see if that works. So keep an eye on the console here. Click that. It was there, but it kind of reloaded itself. I've seen Livewire do this a couple of times, or actually frequently. Whenever you change something on the JavaScript side, I don't know, it does like a, maybe it's a Vite thing. It does a Livewire live reload when you try to test it. And I bet any money that it's going to, yeah, it's going to work now. All right. So I am dispatching an event from Livewire, listening for that event in JavaScript, and I'm passing data from one to the other. Now I can use that to technically I can do, is it new audio? And then the string for the file name. In this case, I need to do, so that'll be public, then storage And then the file name. And on that I can say play and just play that audio. See if that works. Obviously we need to clean this up a little bit, but I just want to see if I can play that audio. So sorry if this is too loud. Not loud at all. Didn't play. Okay, maybe try again.
This Wednesday, we begin a new project with the Laravel framework.
Nice. All right. We just need to play around with this a little bit more, because if I click it twice, what happens?
This Wednesday, we begin a new project with the Laravel framework.
I need to be able to kill the first playback and then play it a second time around. So I guess instead of newing this class here, maybe I can just say let audio equals new audio. And here I can say audio source, yep, equals this thing. And then audio play. But before I do that, I can say, is there a check for he's playing? I don't care. Audio pause, play, played, prefix, play, prepend. Is there an is playing somewhere? Is same note? No. Yeah. There was a pause. Okay, so I'm just going to say pause. Change the source file and then play. And I don't need you. So whenever I click the button, I stop what I'm playing, change the file name if it is different, might be, and then play again. See if that works. You're gonna reload, aren't you? Yeah. All right, so play once.
This Wednesday, we begin a new project with the Laravel framework.
Okay. That's good. Although maybe instead of preview, this should read like play, maybe. And then when it's playing, we change it text and maybe an icon later, but we change the text to stop. So if it's playing, we probably need a boolean. We can use a boolean in our Livewire component. So when we click it the first time, we set the boolean to true, and then play the audio, the audio. And if we click it a second time, we check the boolean again. If it's playing, then we just dispatch a different event to stop the audio from playing. Yeah, let's try that. So maybe we can add another wire on, maybe stop audio. We don't need a payload in this case. Can reference audio and then pause. And that's it. All right, save that. Let's go up to the component again. Wait. I'm going to need a Boolean here. First, how do we do this? Could use Alpine. Isn't there an X text? There is an X text. And we can say, let's just check if that is the case. Play. With that, I think I can just self-close this one. Oop. Oh, it thinks it's an expression. So this is actually text. Aha, okay. There you go. So we can use Alpine. So instead, we can say wire, not white, wire to access our Livewire component. And let's check a Boolean is playing. If that's playing is true, we say stop. Otherwise, play. And now we need that property in our component here. So let's say public Boolean is playing. Let's set it to false. And then on the preview, before we dispatch this event, we can say this, this is playing equals true. Wait, I have to toggle that. Let's set it to not is playing. So that'll toggle it from true to false to from false to true. Then Alpine will take over. But I do need to check if if this is playing, so this is true, I need to dispatch a different event. So this dispatch stop audio. Is it audio or audio? How do you pronounce that? Now I'm curious. Sorry, sidetrack. Audio.
Audio.
Audio. Audio.
Audio.
Audio. Okay. So it's not audio, it's audio.
Audio.
Audio. Thank you. Audio. So stop audio. Dispatch that event. And just return? Yeah, just return. So toggle the isPlain boolean. It's false by default. So the first time we click it, it's going to turn, if it is false, it's going to be true. Ooh. I need to move this one. Oh, no, not that. Come on, work with me, please. Thank you. Move it over here. Because the first time it runs, it's going to be false. So this is not going to execute. And then it's going to turn into true and then dispatch, play audio. But if you click it again while it's playing, then it's going to come here. This is going to be true. Then it's going to execute dispatch, stop audio, and then return. I have to toggle it, don't I? Logic. Instead of doing this toggle stupidity, it's playing, just set it to pause. Like so. Okay, pause by default. First time it clicks, first time you click, this doesn't do anything. It's false. Then you set it to true. Play this part, play the audio. Click again. Comes here. This is true. Set it to false. Stop the audio and return. Next time, this is false. Set it to true. Okay, that works. Let's try it.
This Wednesday, we begin.
So you can stop it in mid-track. So maybe if it's too long of an audio and you didn't like it, then you can.
This Wednesday, we begin a new project.
Nope, I don't like it. Change it. Play it again. And again, that is going to be working with the OpenAI's text-to-speech API, which is going to be easily implemented in this preview right here before doing anything. Okay, so we have pretty much the two most difficult tasks pretty much laid out. From here on, it's just a matter of taking all of the code that we have in the other project and bring it over here. Including I still have to work with the dependent fields. I think that's not going to be too much of a problem, I hope. I mean, it's just Livewire in methods and filling selects, etc., etc. I think that's not going to be a big issue. The greatest issue was having a paddle button that works, having the quantity modifiable in Livewire, and having the text-to-speech implementation, which we are going to have. But I think I think that this is a good stopping point for now. Next week, we are going to continue on just the Livewire project. We're going to start moving code from the old project to this one, and we are going to begin working on the booking implementation. The booking implementation, so that you can select a radio station that has a schedule, then select a date, check if that radio station schedule matches the date that we select, and then finding all of the available slots, time slots for that radio station on that date, filling or displaying a bunch of checkboxes so that the user can click on those, modifying the quantity that is going to be available for checkup, and just displaying a total somewhere in the page. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. We're going to stop here and continue on Wednesday. Again, if you found any of this helpful, don't forget to leave a like on YouTube, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, follow me on Twitch if you're not doing so already, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. If you're on Twitch, stand by. We're going to find someone to raid. Great, Nerison, of course. Hope to see you next time. Okay, raids. Raid channel, let's see who's available. Coding with strangers, that would be a nice option. Yeah, let's go with coding with strangers. This guy is pretty cool. Oh, I have to do it on the browser. Hold on a second. Doopy doopy doo. Let's play some music while we wait. Or maybe it doesn't allow raids at this point, maybe? Let's see. Where's the raid part? Maybe I have to zoom out. I lost the ability to raid someone. What's going on? Maybe he doesn't allow raids. Let me try again. Yeah, he's not allowing raids. Let's raid someone else. Well, let's go to the Ferret software stream and see a bunch of ferrets sleeping. It's always good, right? Always relaxing at the end of the day. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next time. Bye.